We didn't know what it was, what to do. He said my brother was sitting there and he's looking down the lane about 100 yards away, maybe 60 yards away or something, I don't know. And he saw 3 wolf-like creatures walk on 4 legs out of the bush. And he said they stopped, and the biggest one looked over my way and stuck its head up and smelled and looked right at me, stood up on 2 legs and ran at me. And that's when he started firing at it. He shot this thing like 4 or 5 times in the body, and it didn't drop it. What killed it was shooting it in the head, with his brother shooting in the head.
Another one. Another blue balloon. So I'm just wandering through the forest, and the purpose for today's video really was for me to get out and set the game camera back up. So I'm just trying to find an area right now that has decent signal so that I can receive any incoming activity that the camera may pick up. I'm also looking for an area that might be heavily used by wildlife, and who knows, fingers crossed, something else as well. I'm having a bit of trouble at the minute, but I'm sure we will find the perfect spot. And then once the camera is set up, I can get excited. It's a great feeling when you get notifications back through and you're at home, the camera is miles away, and you know, a notification comes through to alert you of some kind of motion detected. That is really, really exciting. So the only way I can have that excitement in my life, the only way we can find anything on this game camera, is if it's actively out in use. So I was just walking through the forest and I had this thought. I thought, oh, cool. I'll maybe try some meditation, some CE5 meditation. For anybody that isn't aware, CE5, or the practice of CE5, is human initiated contact. It's where we meditate and send out our positive energy, our positive thoughts, in the hopes of calling something back in to show itself, whether that be a UFO, some kind of a light being or an energy being. Who knows? But that is the purpose of CE5, where we initiate the contact. And as I'm having this thought, walking along through the trees, I thought this would actually be a really cool place to do it. Like, I've always seen people doing it on the beach, or on a hillside, or a mountain, or a rocky outcrop. But I've never seen anybody surrounded by tightly knit trees like this and call something in. Now, if CE5 does what it says that it does, there should be no harm in trying it in a place like this. If anything, it would be better, right? Because it's going to be difficult for anybody to fly a drone through here in the hopes of hoaxing. It's going to be difficult for someone to let flares off when the trees are this closely knit together. So hoaxing would be limited. And therefore, anything that does appear or does show itself gives us a lot more scope for investigation. You know, we can rule out straight away drones and flares and other things like that. And there should also be no problem with the beings or the UFOs appearing in an area like this, because we know that UFOs have a long history of being seen in forested areas. So why does no one do it? Why does nobody just sit down on the forest floor, practice CE5, and call something in that is as good as the footage we see from Stephen Greer? Why does it always have to be where there is clear open skies, you know, like I've said, on a beach or a mountainside? If it's gonna work, it's gonna work. It doesn't matter where you are, or it shouldn't matter where you are. And so I might try that. I might try that.
I was coming back from church with my friend Brian, and I think it was like on a Wednesday night or something, and my cousin just happened to be in visiting from Ohio, and same cousin, and she was at the house because she doesn't go to church, but we had something going on that night, and we were coming back, and we rounded this corner, and at the corner of a house, all of a sudden the lights hit this white thing. And it was right at the corner of this house, and it was tall. And I looked at it, and this is gonna sound so weird. It was really tall. Its arms in proportion didn't match. Its arms were too long. Its legs were too long. It was really skinny, and it kind of had no face. But it had, like, if it had a face, and then there was skin like completely covering the face, like kind of really tight. You could see its jawbones. You could see that there was supposed to be an opening where the mouth was. You could see, you know, there were supposed to be eye sockets, but it was like if you had just covered the whole thing in like a white piece of skin.
So I just thought that I would set up my chair for 10-15 minutes and talk to you guys about a few things. Where I'm sitting right now is a disused trail, mountain bike trail. And to find this, I've had to push my way a long way through the forest, breaking branches, stepping over fallen trees. It was a route to nowhere, or so it seemed. And then all of a sudden it opened up, and I'm now on this clearly what is a disused mountain bike trail, and hasn't been used for many, many years by the look of it. Just to my right, over this way, you can see there's a great big tree. Where is it? There. That has fallen over and blocked the way out going in that direction. In this direction, the trail just ends. It's almost like it becomes a trail, then it's taken over by grass again, like long wild grass, and we're back into the forest, which is really dense and overgrown. So it's weird whenever you find something like this, but I do love it. And there is certainly something eerie about stumbling on an old trail, because at one point this will have been hustling and bustling. Mountain bikes would have been flying up and down, there'd have been laughter, people joking, and just genuinely enjoying the scenery that now I'm lucky enough to experience all by myself. But anyway, there's a reason I wanted to sit here and talk to you guys, and it's because I received I thought I could hear someone then. No, Lily's dug a little hole under the tree. She's asleep, so I don't think I have to worry. Yeah, I received an email. This was a few days ago, and as always, I have to give a disclaimer. You know, I never know if these experiences that come through are true. I don't have any reason to doubt anybody, but I just have to make that very, very clear. And this one fascinated me because I have read things like this before. I've never actually received an experience like this firsthand, so it was interesting, and it fascinated me. There was an email from a guy that claimed when he would come to this national park as a child, his dad would hire out one of the static campsites. You know, he wasn't wild camping or anything like that. He had a caravan, and they would spend long summers here. Him and his brother would venture off into the forest, and they would build shelters, they would play hide and seek, and just basically fool around like kids do. He said that on one particular occasion, they were playing hide and seek. He'd separated from his brother, and he came across something that resembled a glass cube in the forest. Now, at first, he thought it was some kind of art installation, which, you know, does exist in this national park. There are a few art installations dotted around, but a lot of those are relatively new additions to the park. This was a long time ago. I'm not sure on exactly what year he said this was, but it was over 10-15 years ago when this story or this experience happened. And this cube was like oil on the floor. So if you are the person that sent this email in, I do apologise if I'm getting some of these details wrong. I can't record myself and read the emails on the same phone, so I'm doing my best. But he said that the outside of this glass cube was reflective, but in some way shimmering like oil. You know, the different colours, I don't know if there's a word for that, but oil has that really weird, multicoloured, wavy type texture. And this glass reflective cube somehow was doing that. But yet somehow it was also translucent. That's weird. I guess what I'm picturing in my head is a bubble. You know, when you look at a bubble, it's transparent. I can see right through it, but I also see the shimmering of the soap suds or whatever that is on the outside. So he observed this thing, which was huge, and it never did anything. It never made a sound. There was no weird feelings, but it was in a really, really weird place. He said that where this thing was hovering, it had taken him quite a way into the woods. You know, he like I've just said, he pushed his way through the woods. It's really dense and overgrown, and there is this cube reflecting what looks like the texture of oil on the outside. I'm hearing some very creepy noises, I'm not gonna lie. So yeah, and I have heard of a story like that before. I can't remember, it was many years ago. I read a book, I think it was in a book or a documentary, something like that, where these cube craft or cube structures, whatever they are just there hovering in the woods. Now, anybody with any kind of understanding of how aviation works would understand that a square is not a brilliant shape for aerodynamics. I don't know why a craft, if that's what it was, would be in that kind of shape, but it scared him enough that he ran back to his brother, found his brother, and they went to tell their dad, who didn't believe them. You know, just thought they were messing around. They'd seen something in the woods that was pretty much of natural design, man-made design. But we hear this all the time, young children finding things while venturing off the beaten track and stumbling into a situation that is just a chance encounter. You know, there's no other way of explaining that. That was a chance encounter. When you're playing hide and seek, you're not sticking to the rules, you're not sticking to paths, you're not writing maps, like following maps, you're just going wherever your instinct takes you. And this young guy at the time found something that he can't explain. I find that fascinating. I love my dog, I honestly do. Like, I love her so much, but I'll tell you, regardless of whether she's my dog or not, she's terrifying to look at. Especially when she disappears and I have no idea where she's gone, and then all of a sudden I look up through the track and I just see these two amber glowing eyes looking at me. Really big amber bright eyes looking through the dark trees. I had to stop a minute ago and just do a double take at what I was looking at, because I just saw the silhouette of this black thing sat upright in the long grass, surrounded by dark trees, and these two orange eyes staring at me. And then I realised pretty quickly that it was Lil, but for a second I didn't know where she was, and I was thinking, what the hell is that? Bless her, she doesn't know what she looks like. She's beautiful really, but to some people she might look a bit scary, me included. It's difficult at times to juggle this version of me that is the investigator, wants to be professional, wants to be scientific in my approach. Then there is this other version of me that, you know, at the root of it all, I am an experiencer myself. And so stories that come forward to me from similar like-minded people that are going through the same things, that intrigues me, that makes me passionate about what they're saying. And you always run the risk of blurring that line. And what I mean by blurring that line is sometimes if you sit there long enough with a credible person who's obviously been affected by their experience, and you come out here the following week to investigate the phenomena, you might easily come back with a preconceived idea as to what it is that you're dealing with, whether it be extraterrestrial, whether it be cryptid. And the true fact of the matter is that we just don't know. And so trying to stay right down the centre line, where I'm Ben the investigator, but also Ben the passionate guy that has the interest of these accounts, is very, very difficult. It's like a juggling act. But it has to be done. It has to be done. Because what happened to one person might not be the same as what happened to another. And my account is different to many others that I've read through the emails that I get. So it's a skill in itself just to be able to look at this with fresh eyes every time you turn up and be open to experiencing absolutely anything and everything. Don't ever come to these places and think that it's extraterrestrial in nature or it's cryptid in nature, because every time you do, it will prove you wrong. The one thing I am absolutely confident about is that some of these people, not all of them, but some of them that I speak to and have spoken to over the years, are credible people. These are down-to-earth, relatable, hard-working people with no reason to lie, and you only have to sit across the room from them, listening to them retell their story, to see how this phenomena has affected their life. And most of them don't want anything from this other than to get their life back on track. They're not trying to make a name for themselves. They're not trying to build up a social media profile. Some of these people don't even know how to use a computer. And that's when I know that there is something more to be investigated in this area. When I speak to people like that and I'm thinking about their account days later because of the effect it's had on me, it's a weird feeling. It's, you know, you've never met this person before in your life and you've shared this experience because, like myself, I am an experiencer. I know what they're going through, and to live through that with no answers and the possibility of never knowing, it's torture for some people, me included. So I know that what I'm doing here has value.
Imagine a universe so vast, so full of possibilities, that it stretches far beyond our understanding. The idea that extraterrestrial life is living amongst us is an intriguing idea, and one that I think that we should embrace rather than fear. We as a species have faced the unknown before, from exploring uncharted territories to pushing the boundaries of science. We have always sought to understand what lies beyond our immediate world. I don't personally believe that the existence of other life forms would in some way diminish our own existence. And in fact, I believe that in some ways it could enrich it. Consider this. What if these beings hold the knowledge that could help us solve our greatest problems? What if they actually came in peace, seeking to share wisdom and help us learn to understand one another? The potential for cooperation and learning is limitless. However, if things were the polar opposite, and for some reason we were unlucky enough to encounter malevolent beings, I really don't think that there would be much of a chance of protecting ourselves. Since the 16th century, humans have driven at least 680 vertebrate species to extinction, with many more likely to have gone unnoticed. To a high advanced species who have made their way across the galaxy, we are no more important than the plants and animals that we share this planet with.
When we look at where I am now, it's absolutely breathtaking, but at the same time there is this really weird undertone of creepiness. And I don't know what that is. You have to be here to experience that feeling. You can sit here and you can take videos, take lots of photos, look back when you're at home and think how beautiful this place is, but it's very easy to forget that strange things have been reported here. And it fascinates me because there seems to be this misconception within the UFO field and the cryptid field that if you're exploring or investigating an area that is man-made, then real phenomena just can't exist in those areas. And that is a misconception because it's quite the opposite. It's quite the opposite. And there seems to be no rhyme or reason for why these things are happening in the areas that they do. but we've seen them in all types of scenarios. You know, we've seen them in urban settings, we've seen them in desert settings, forested areas obviously, and it just, right now, because maybe we haven't been collecting the data long enough, I'm not sure, but there seems to be really no pattern as to why and when they turn up, or why a sighting occurs when it does. Maybe it's all at random. Maybe even the extraterrestrials and the cryptids themselves don't know entirely when they'll be turning up or where. Maybe this isn't a conscious decision. Maybe they slip from one wormhole to another, or through one dimension to another, or one portal, whatever you want to refer to it as, to another. And this happens to them, and it's more of a mystery to them as it is us. That is always a possibility. There are reasons why I don't think that that's the case. For example, I've mentioned this before in one of my previous videos. If it was at random and they were more surprised than we are to arrive in an area like this, they wouldn't have the ability to transport themselves back at will. But yet we know they do. We know that a sighting can happen, and within a few minutes of people tracking what they've just seen, it vanishes. Now you would imagine that if it was all random, all an accident, that they would stick around for longer and they would panic and struggle to try and find their way back to their home planet or their home star system, wherever they came from. But we don't see that. We see it right at the very pivotal moment where someone's about to take a picture, or someone's tracking close on the heels of one of these creatures, they're able to vanish at will. And so for me, this can't be random. This isn't a mistake or a tear in space-time. This is purposely being done. They know why they're coming here, and they know what for. We just have to figure out now as investigators the answers to all these whys. Why are they here? What are they after? What are their agendas? And there's a lot of work to be done. We look at the UFO phenomena and we think, God, these reports have been coming in for well over 70, 80 years now. And before that, if we look back at ancient texts and literature, we can see that there's drawings, and our ancestors have obviously had interactions with these beings. Why are we no closer to finding out any of these questions, the answers to any of these questions, sorry. But that, in the grand scheme of things, is not a lot of time. Maybe we need to put more effort in, more people with boots on the ground for many more years before we even come close to figuring out what the hell is going on.
Have you ever looked up at the night sky, or walked through a misty forest and felt a sense of wonder? That's me on a daily basis. My passion for seeking out the answers to these strange reports is more than just a hobby to me. In fact, it's become quite the obsession. By exploring these mysteries, I feel like I'm able to connect with my environment in a much deeper way. Each sighting, each encounter, each strange disappearance adds to this bizarre tapestry of history that we already hold here in the UK. I'm constantly reminded that there is still so much to learn, and the phenomena cannot be pigeonholed, nor can it be placed inside a box. In fact, the phenomena is forever changing, and as it does, we must learn to change right alongside it.